Earlier this year, I think in January, I got an email from my friend Ben at Zena Forest Products. It's a sawmill just a little bit west of Salem, Oregon. They've hosted a couple of our old tool meetups.
Your rifts on the sides, because it's not going to dry flat like this. Well, it's going to cup.
But anyways, he sent me an email about some walnut that they had. I guess they had found an old walnut orchard. They had some of the sort of stump parts lying around, and he wondered if I would like one. And of course I jumped at the chance. So I drove out there and we looked at the pile. So I guess these are a splice between English walnut and black walnut. And I can't remember now which way it goes. I think the rootstock is one, and the top of the tree is the other. One of them makes a better rootstock, and one of them makes better nuts. So they're spliced together, sort of like they do with grapes, I think. What we were wondering is whether these pieces would have some really interesting grain where the two different types of walnut come together. So we picked out one of the pieces that looked good, and we pulled that piece out, and it looked pretty good. So we threw it in the truck, and it is actually fairly heavy. And we got it positioned over the axle a little better. And I brought it home. It sat in the truck for a few weeks as I tried to figure out how I was going to get it out of the truck, as it's sort of a weird shape, and with the sides of the truck makes it a little bit difficult to get things like this in and out. I remembered that I had made a connection point in our carport for my hoist when we had first moved in, so that I could get some of my tools out of the truck. So I found those pieces that I had used to make that connection point, and the holes in the carport beam were still in the same place. So I put that back together again, and I got the truck positioned underneath the hoist. The tricky part was how to hold on to the piece of walnut with the chain so that it would pick it up and not slip and not let it swing and hit the truck, or get part way up and then fall and break the bed, or there's sort of lots of things that could happen. So I got the chain wrapped around what seemed like it would work and sort of went slowly lifting it. And I got it to sit sort of upright. The thing that I've learned about moving heavy objects is that you never want the momentum of the mass to be out of control. Like my column falling over. So everything's sort of slow and thoughtful. So once I had it upright, I could lift it up vertically and sort of get it clear of the truck. And then I can carefully move the truck out from under a piece of walnut. Then slowly and carefully lower the walnut onto a cart. So this took a little time, but it all went just fine. And then the piece sat on the cart for 5 months, I think, as I tried to find some time and to kind of figure out how I wanted to cut this up. I think Ben's idea is what I ended up going with, was to cut the two lobes off of the bottom and then slab the center part up. So I'd get two pieces for turning and then some nice sort of coffee table size slabs. I cut one of the branch pieces off as it was just a little bit too long. Then I could cut one of the sides off. I wanted to cut this as straight as I could so that I could use that cut to start making the slabs. I had thought that side would be a burl, but it really didn't look like that's what the grain pattern was. It looked more like it was just a chunk of wood with some slightly curly grain. Now with that side cut off, I wanted to get the piece off the cart and tipped over. And it came off the cart easy enough, but it stayed upright. I think most of the weight is still on the side that's on the bottom at this point. So I tried to tip it over, and it's really heavy. It wasn't going to just tip over. So I tried getting my hand truck out to tip it over, and just getting it on the hand truck was too complicated. I gave up on the hand truck and decided there was sort of a nubbin or a part that was sticking out on the other side that I could cut off, and that would help in tipping the piece over. I really wanted the flat cut that I had made to be up so that I could use that to start making the slabs. Then I decided what I would do is just slowly pick the piece up and add bigger and bigger pieces of wood under the side that I'm working on, and sort of slowly tip the piece over. I could lift it a little bit with the crowbar and sort of walk it up, I guess. And once I got it up high enough, I could then slowly tip it and keep it mostly under control. My cut wasn't quite as flat as I wanted. It was pretty close. I could make it a little better with some rails, and I shimmed up the center of one side of the rail, and that gave us a flat surface to run the guide on the saw against. I got Calvin out to help. This is the first time he's helped with the chainsaw milling, and he did great. I gave him some safety instructions and kind of what's going to happen and what we're going to do, and he followed along. And we made a nice flat first cut. Then it was just a matter of doing the other slabs. Then I did the final cut a little later by myself. I think we were halfway into this cut and the chain came off. I couldn't figure out why it wasn't cutting. I took everything apart, put it back together again, figured out the chain was off, then finished up that final cut. It felt like we were hitting a nail or something. It turned out the chain was just off the little power sprocket on the motor. So you can see the slabs that we did. These should make something nice at some point. It'll take a few years for these to dry. I wanted to turn the two sides that I'd cut off. So this is the side that was left over after we slabbed off the center. It's kind of an awkward shape, but I cut a turning blank out of it on the big bandsaw. I used my circle jig. This 1-inch blade cuts really well, but it doesn't really cut curves. So what I end up doing is sliding the jig back and forth and sort of cutting corners off of the piece and getting to something that's sort of round, but doesn't really have radius sides, like a 20-sided shape. And I attached a faceplate. On this piece, I decided I would do sort of the traditional direction where you carve out the flat face to make the interior of the bowl. Then the curved outside, which is the outside of the tree, becomes the outside of the bowl. It was just a matter of shaping it at this point. So I worked on sort of the outside and the bottom, and I wanted to get it ready to put the chuck on the bottom of the bowl. This piece had sort of a big missing section, which wasn't missing from the wood, it was just the way the tree grew. So there'll be a hole in the bowl when it's finished. But it meant that it never got very balanced on the lathe, so I couldn't turn the speed up very high. And I made a tenon for the chuck. I experimented with some different size drill bits for drilling out the center, most of which worked pretty well. I made the angle on the tenon for the chuck, and it should fit. I can turn the piece around at this point. and start drilling out the center a little bit. Because it's turning and the cutting tool removes material by the movement of the workpiece, the very center sometimes is hard to remove because in a way it's not really moving. It sort of has zero radius, so it has zero movement. So it's oftentimes easier to remove the center with a drill bit. I can finish up the outside and work on the inside. I had kind of forgotten how much I really like turning walnut. It just cuts really, really nicely. You can just kind of make it melt away. Then I put wax paint on it, as this will now sit for a year or two to dry. This is the first half of the process. The big solid chunk would crack and split if I just let that dry. So you turn it to this point. Then it'll dry much quicker, like a year or two. Then once it dries, you can turn it to its final form. This is the other side of the big chunk of wood. It's about the limit of what I can carry. My compass wasn't big enough to draw the circle I wanted to make, which I suppose in a way I didn't really have to make. I just had to make sure my center was in the right place. I cut off a little bit of the weight. Because the radius was fairly big, just less than a foot, I tried rotating the piece in the blade of the bandsaw, but it still didn't really like this. It kind of worked, but it got a little sketchy. So I stopped everything and backed the blade out, cut off the piece that I had cut, and went back to my old method of just cutting corners off. Now it's a little bit lighter. It's still pretty heavy. It's about the limit of what I can lift and put on the lathe. I put faceplate on the flat side. So in thinking about this and looking at it, I thought maybe what I should do with this is turn the orientation of the bowl around so that the rim will be the live edge, or the rough edge of the tree, and the bottom will be the inside of the tree. I thought this would have the bowl move through more of the grain of the wood, and since that's really the point of the project, I should flip it around from the way that I usually do it. So I was turning this, and it was slow going, and I realized to remove the material on the drive side, the side with the faceplate, I was going to have to get the lathe banjo under the workpiece, which I wasn't going to be able to do as the diameter, or the radius, was the limit of what my lathe will hold. So I cut off enough so the lathe banjo will fit under the piece. It's still a big piece. I just wasn't making it completely ridiculous. You can see how the lathe tool rest base, or the banjo, fits under the piece now. And I can round up the outside. And with it this way, I can get sort of to the back side of the piece. That'll allow me to do all of the work at this stage with just the faceplate, as I don't really have a good way to hold it turned around once the inside is cut out. So I'm making the outside round and shaping the bottom. And I couldn't get the RPM very high, as it wasn't real well balanced. It was sort of between 250 and 300. But because the radius is so big, turning on the outside of that radius was pretty fast, because there's quite a bit of speed in the piece when it's that far from the center. Then I can work on the inside, and it was just a matter of carving out the inside, which started as bark, but I was fine. It cuts pretty easy. What was a little bit tricky was, because this is flipped around, the rim of the bowl, when the piece is turning, is kind of fuzzy. Knowing what the thickness of the bowl was hard to see when it was turning. So I kept just taking a little more off until I got to something that seemed about right. The grain on this is crazy. The bottom looks like it's one kind of wood, and the sides of the bowl look like a different kind of wood. The part that I think is sapwood is kind of enclosed. It looks sort of like a cloud drifting through the bowl. And there are these sort of blast fingers, or sort of a blast pattern coming out of the sides of the bowl, which is really interesting. So this will sit for a year or two, but it should make for a really interesting piece. Thanks for watching.